introduce our guest. No, Kimmy, you did not miss it tonight. All right. So, welcome everyone to Love Over Coffee, Voices Now Heard for the Marginalized, the Silenced, and the Abused. And tonight I'm excited to bring to you a new friend and someone that I haven't known for very long, but she's always taking my money because she's very creative. And her name is Marandy. I believe that's how she says it. I don't
Correct.
know. I
Yeah.
call her Mar, but her name is Marandy Romero, and she is a survivor. And she's here tonight to tell her story. And so, Mar, I'm going to start with the same question I always do, and that is tell us who you are, tell us where you've been, tell us where you're going, and that's basically your past, your present, or your past, your present, your future, and please only tell us what you feel comfortable and safe sharing, and welcome again.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here. I have been watching the series, so um, I appreciate you doing this for everyone, first of all.
Oh,
So my name is Marandy Romero. I am, oh God, I'm an emotional person, so I'm a very emotional person.
that's
So,
okay. I will. If you cry, I'm going to cry now. Listen.
no, we're not crying. I did my makeup. We're not gonna cry. Um, so I am a survivor in general. Survivor of domestic abuse, survival of SA, survival of neglect, abandonment. And so those are all under my belt. I am 40. I am a loving person. I cry because I am in amazement of myself.
I love
I
it.
never, I never imagined that I would be here today at 40 doing the things that I'm doing and continuing to show people love after the things that I've seen.
And you know what? That says a lot about you because when you've been through a lot of abuse, it would be easy to become very jaded. But when you still want to love on others more than they love on you, that says a lot about, sadly, it also says a lot about why perhaps we got into the situations we did because we believed them much longer than we should have. But at the same time, we didn't want to give up on them and we wanted to give them more than one chance. I did an Instagram one time and I talked about this a few days ago. I'm willing to give people a million chances, but I discovered that between the first chance and the millionth chance, there were 999,999 where you freaked me over. I'm going to use that word instead, although the other word is my favorite word. But and I realized that I gave you more chances than you ever deserved.
Yeah.
Um, so number one, thank you for being here because I know that not all of us have been as spoken out about what we have endured, and sometimes that takes its toll when we keep it in, but at the same time, letting it out is important and hard too. So, tell us a little bit again what you feel comfortable and safe sharing, but tell us a little bit about what you experienced. I guess from the time you maybe were younger and some of the childhood trauma that you just mentioned. And then, of course, I know the abusive situation that you were in. So,
Um, so my mother is an alcoholic and a drug abuser. Um, she was not stable by any means. There were men coming in and out left and right. Some good, some not so good. So I've been experiencing domestic abuse pretty much my entire life because I've seen her go through it.
right.
And I really do think children seeing that really do impact them in ways that, they kind of, in a sense, normalize it and think it's okay for this to happen. And it's not. We need to really protect the children from early on to break this chain before other people are in this situation.
Well, and many people will say, marijuana is the gateway drug. No, trauma is the gateway drug to addiction, whether it be food, whether it be drugs, whether it be sex addiction, relationship addiction. I think for a long time I had a let's fall in love addiction. Let's hurry up and get to the 6 month period and the 9 month period, and and it was like if we had survived that long, then we were like meant to be. And also equating sex with love and all those things
Yes.
are the things that basically mess us up.
Yes. When I was younger, I was always that person. Like, I never had a relationship in high school. I had friends, right? I had friends.
Right.
Um, and those friends, like, for me, it was like, it's okay that we're friends because that's what I choose, but as I got older, that's when I started realizing, the self-worth issues, the allowing people to love you only in that moment, or to like you or care about you only in that moment, and then to let it go. Um, so, I did struggle with my addictions in the past as well, but something just kind of kept telling me, like, you have to stop. And when I wanted to stop, it stopped, and then I was done. So I'm very, very, very lucky to be where I am today.
So, after your, I guess, being raised by a mom with challenges, because, addiction is not a reflection necessarily of the individual, but it is certainly a reflection of the chaos and confusion and drama that you bring into your life and all the other choices and consequences that come with that. But, you know, after the abuse of your childhood, then where did that lead you into your teenage years? You mentioned mostly friends.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened as you got older, like into your 20s and then.
Right. So I went all through high school. I don't want a boyfriend. I don't want a serious relationship. I always knew I didn't want to get married. I didn't trust men. I, and then when I moved from Louisiana to Miami, that's when I met my first boyfriend at 19. That's when I had my first serious relationship.
You're still pretty young.
Yeah, I was really young. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, 19, and really to most degree, like me, mostly inexperienced in what a relationship even was.
Very, because I did not have any type of positive influences. I mean, I say that, but then again, my mom is one of 6 girls, and they've all been married to the same man. So in a sense, right, I had, like, and they're the ones who raised me. My aunts and my uncles and my grandparents, they're the ones who raised me. But because I saw so much of what my mom was going with, like, it kind of overshadowed everything else that I saw, because that's my mom.
Right, right. Well, someone on TikTok is saying, much respect to you, Mar. My father is an alcoholic to this day.
Thank you. That is definitely not something easy to deal with. My mother is still an alcoholic to this day, although she won't admit it. But I've learned through many, many years of therapy that you love people from afar. You love them as much as you can, but never love them more than you love yourself.
And that is a mouthful, because that is a journey that can take many decades. Because I know, because I want to say Mara because I know some Maras. Mar, I am much older than you, and I'm still learning where those boundary lines are drawn, how to not engage so much in someone else's issues, and how to protect myself. As we've said before, you put the mask on the airplane on yourself first, and that is a damn hard thing to even really contemplate and think
Yeah.
about. Okay, so you're 19 years old, first relationship. What does it look like?
Um, so it lasted 9 years. We were going to get married. Um, there wasn't any domestic abuse in there. We actually had a pretty decent relationship where, the respect was mutual and things like that. I was almost a homemaker in a sense because he was always working. But he was Mr. Flirt. He cheated.
Mm.
And then at the end of that relationship, how it ended, we had plans to move together away from Miami. And at the end of it, he just decided that he didn't want to move. So I moved back in with my family, which was not great. And he moved back in with his, and that relationship ended. But during that relationship, um, I myself was going through like a lot of depression and anxiety. I could not sleep. I would go days. I know some of you guys know that I go like 24 hours with no sleep, but no, I would go days without sleeping. I've always had issues sleeping, but that comes from the SA, right? People
Yeah.
don't, even though I'm 40 years old now and, things happened when I was 7 years old or things happened when I was 15 years old, even at 40 years old, I still have issues sleeping. Um, I actually went a very long time where if you woke me up in my sleep, I woke up scared. Like you could not disturb my sleep because I was like in fear for my life, in a sense. So I'm finally over that part of my life, thank God.
Well, again, and it is when you are going through these things, until you really process them and you understand the triggers and what comes with all of that, it's a long road. It's a long road to figure out why you're sometimes doing the things you're doing. Um, and then, even when you know why you're doing something, it doesn't just turn it off.
Right, right. You become a little bit more aware of it, but that doesn't mean it's going to get better.
No, because a
You're
lot of
just
my
aware.
checking behaviors, a lot of my checking behaviors started in the last relationship where I couldn't sleep because I was listening for every noise. And I was listening for every noise because I figured out that he was leaving in the middle of the night. And so I would go to the window to see if his car was there. And
Ugh,
then it just became a constant thing and just because you're out of the relationship for a year or two doesn't mean you stop going to the window.
yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
just doesn't happen that way. Sadly, the body keeps the score. So during that relationship with a 9 year relationship, which is nothing to sneeze at, from 19 to
No.
28, that's a lot of development years. So what were there, I guess, bad times, or was it just
Um, yeah, we had bad times, right? Every relationship has bad times. Um, but I think it took me probably like a year or two after that relationship ended to kind of own the part that I had in that relationship because I was 19 when I met him. I did not have any relationships before him. He kind of like got the good, the bad, and the ugly, and
right,
the
right,
the 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 he double hockey sticks of it all.
right?
He did not get the best me, poor guy. Poor guy. So there were ups and downs. But like I said, it really was respect all of the way. He never, I don't even think we had yelling arguments, to be honest with you. We had disagreements, things like that, but everything was pretty mellow and low key. Um, and if we disagreed, then, we just kind of disagreed.
And that's hard too because when you've grown up in chaos and confusion, what's normal doesn't seem normal
Yeah.
to your body, your brain, your heart, your emotion. It seems like this is the too good to be true part. Like I know that some drama's coming. It's just a matter of when. And so that's where that self-fulfilling prophecy comes in sometimes, because you make drama when there's nothing going
Yeah.
on, kind of normal and low key. And many of us find ourselves in that position. So then what happens at 28? You break up, and what happened then?
So I mean, there's a lot between that, right?
Oh,
We break up. I ended up staying with my sister for a while. And then a few months later, a friend of mine from Miami reached out to me. She's my best friend now. And we had kind of like not spoken a lot because she was going through a divorce and I was going through my breakup and she didn't know where I was really. And she was like, what are you doing with your family? Like your family is messed up. Like
right.
what you need to get out of there. So she came to my rescue and she was like, look, you know, my husband's not here anymore. I have a spare bedroom. Come on over, get your life together, and we'll figure it out together. So I was lucky to have her again. So the moment she said that, I had my bags packed the next day and I was gone. I was back to Miami.
Okay. All right. And then what?
I dated for a while, for a long while. Um, but nothing serious. I did get into a situation. I did probably for like a year or so. And I ended up moving in with him, or actually, he ended up moving in with me because he was having issues at home. And once again, I just kind of let him use me as his emotional support person. But he would like never commit to me. Like we would be together behind closed doors.
I've been through
Once
those.
again, like there wasn't any domestic abuse or any violence or anything like that, but it was a clear situation where he was very narcissistic, very well educated man, and he just used me for his benefit. And then once I was tired of it, I decided to leave.
Well, and that's where, as I've said for many nights in a row now, there is such that fine line between not our role in the abuse, but our role in not setting the boundaries. And
Exactly.
because I think back in my own situation, and it was like, until my friend said, if he's not getting it from you, he's probably getting it from somewhere else. I was willing to hold out, and I was willing to hold out hope that somehow he just hadn't figured out yet, even though he'd been telling me for months and months and 2 years. Oh, you're the one, you're the one, you're the one, and I love you, and you're the best thing since sliced bread and apple pie and this and that. And yet, all aspects of the relationship never came to fruition. And that's where it's like, wait a minute. I deserve all aspects of the relationship to come to fruition.
Hmm.
Why am I holding out hope for something that's not going anywhere? But you think about these transaction ships, as Karen calls them. She's over here. She says, "Thank you, Mar, for being so transparent and sharing your story tonight." Um, you know, we sometimes get into those relationships where it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and no one has promised anything, and you're living together as though you are married, and there is no commitment, and there is no I mean, I still know people who are married who sometimes will say, "Well, now you owe me half the rent," and I'm thinking, "What?" I'm like, "What are y'all doing? I don't
Living as
understand."
roommates. Yep, living as roommates.
And that's a horrible feeling, to think that you're just there to basically exchange money and pay for a hotel. You're basically paying for a hotel,
Yeah.
but you're living together in a house, and it's like, well, half of the electricity is this much, and you're like, what? But I mean, but we get into these situations quite easily. And
Very easily.
1 year goes to two and goes to five and goes to 10. I was in a 10-year relationship like this where I don't know what we, I look back now and it's like, what were we doing exactly? So,
I had my best friend who saved me once. She kept telling me, she's like, "You're wasting your time. What are you doing? He doesn't treat you well. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. What are you you know, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?" I was like, "I know." I was like, "I know. I am aware. I am being crazy right now." But I kept telling her, I was like, "At the end of this, I know there is an end. I know there is an end, right? There's going to be a point where I do get tired of it." And it's not like he made any of the promises to me. He did not. He didn't do any of those. It's just that his actions is what was the cause of, all the things that I wanted and thought I needed with him, and and all of that stuff. He never promised anything. He straight out told me, he could not commit. But he also told me that he wasn't seeing anyone else either, but that was a lie. Um
well, and that's where the whole, if I'm not in your public life, then you're not in my private life, because that can be a huge red flag when nobody wants anyone to know you exist. I'm thinking, because I went through the same thing. It was like, I didn't realize what was being said behind my back until after I ended things. Then I realized, oh, so I was never in your life who I thought I was.
you were a friend. You were the
Nobody,
roommate.
right? I was the the best friend and the business partner.
Yeah.
Instead of the girlfriend. But it's like, but I got lots of text messages that say I love you and thank you for being my girlfriend, and it's like, okay, yeah,
Yep. Yep.
they live in their own reality, don't they?
Yep.
So you were with him for about a year. So Mar, when you look back now, what do you think you were looking for that he was giving you?
Um
Because we have
he
to ask ourselves those questions.
So yeah, and it's like, it's okay, because like I said, I kept telling my friend, at the end I'm gonna be better. At the end I'm gonna be better. Like, something kept telling me, at the end of this I'm going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, the end like shattered me. Like, I was broken for a while. But once I came through that brokenness, and it was really brokenness that I had created myself, because I knew I could have ended it at any point and I should have ended it, but that's not how my brain works, unfortunately. Um, I did want a commitment, and he wasn't giving it to me, but he was still giving me respect, and my version of respect, of course,
I was gonna
was
say, because
different. Was different because of the traumas that I had gone through, right? So
right.
my version of respect back then isn't the same version of respect that I have now, of course. But back then, it was okay because, he respected me. He was showing me care. He made dinner for me. He took me here. He took me there. Even though it was like as friends and, we couldn't hold hands like we used to, or whatever the case may have been, he was giving me something that felt more genuine than I probably had ever felt in my life.
Right.
And even still to this day, I firmly believe like he didn't do it on purpose. I really do believe that he was giving me as much as he could at that time.
Do you know
And
anything about his childhood, his background,
oh
anything
yeah,
that
he
you
was
know?
he so I'm trying to remember now, because honestly, still to this day, I consider him a friend of mine. I will not lie to you that, because once again, I'm very well aware of the part that I play in situations, and I will, if I'm a part in that situation, I will never put 100% blame on someone.
Right. I
Never,
understand.
ever, ever. So I played my part in that situation. I really have no reason to hate him. He told me he could not commit to me. I mean, sure, he lied about the other women, but I knew what I was getting myself into. I was a grown woman. I knew better. So we still,
But Mar, your trauma didn't know better.
yes, exactly.
Let's separate that. Your trauma did not know better. That's the sad thing.
There you go. You said it. And that's another thing. I know I said I thank you in the beginning, but listening to you has helped me put labels and words to things that like I feel and I felt before and I didn't know what it was until you started doing this. So I'm so thankful that you're doing this. His childhood was normal, really. You know, he had a working mother, a working father. There was no abuse for him. His childhood was normal. He was just he was a narcissist. He had a very high education. He thought he was better than everybody else. He thought very, very highly of himself. He was always right. No one was ever close to him. You know, he kind of thought he was like up there next to God.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So that's what I got.
And you know, I had not dated a lot in my life either. In like high school, never. 20s, no. It wasn't until I had graduated from college and got into my first relationship that I dated a guy for just a few months and decided to marry him because in my mind, having grown up Catholic, which, we could go there for six
Oh
weeks
boy.
in a
Yeah.
day.
We need a
Um,
couple hours for that
but
one.
growing up Catholic, it was like, in my mind, I'm not going to sleep with someone unless I'm in love with them. So because I slept with him, I must be in love with him. Yeah, okay. And that led to I moved in with him. I basically met him in October, moved in with him in February, and got married by August, not even
Oh
a full
wow.
year. Okay. And I was 25. I'm also a grown woman, graduated from college. You would think I knew what the hell I was doing. No, because again, um, all of my choices and all of my trauma led me to that point, and I thought I knew what I was doing. Everyone told me you don't know what you're doing, and that made me just stubbornly damned and determined to show them that I knew what I was doing. And about 3.5 years later, I woke up saying, "Who the hell are you, and why am I here?" And I got divorced. But when you look back, the steps make sense.
Mhm.
But when you're trying to figure it out at the time, it's an impossibility.
Yeah.
So you broke up with him and you talked about your brokenness. So you were definitely more attached emotionally
Yeah.
than you thought you were or that
Yeah.
you wanted to believe you were.
Yeah.
So then what happens after what's your healing journey been like, and what did you endure after the breakup?
So after him, I had, depression and anxiety. I would not leave my house because we also lived close together and I just did not want to see him.
Oh,
Right?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
I didn't want to see him. Like I couldn't see him. Like I needed to stay strong for myself. I needed to heal and move past this. And still once again in my head it's like, it's okay, you're gonna be better. You're gonna be better. Because at this point I had already gone through what I went through as a child. I went through this 9-year relationship. I left my family's house once again. Um, and at this point in life I had a really good job. I was making money. I was, had my own car again and just doing the things that I needed to do.
Right.
I just needed to get over this breakup, allow myself to grieve. And I think that's also when I started learning, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling.
Mm.
Don't hold it back because mom, dad, grandma, best friend Sally down the road says, it's just a guy, it'll be okay. You'll be okay. I know I'll be okay, but let me feel how I'm feeling so that I can finally be okay. You can't skip those feelings.
And you also, I didn't even think about it this way until a counselor said it out loud. But he was like, you not only have to grieve the loss, but you have to grieve the loss of what you thought you had. And it was like, what do you mean? And he said, because in your mind, you had a relationship. He was fake from the beginning. He may not have ever wanted what you wanted, but that doesn't change it in here.
Yeah,
And so, grieving the loss of something that never existed, you're like, what the hell am I? What the hell am I grieving? Like, I don't even know what I'm grieving. But the relationship was all in my head because nothing that ever transpired between us was anything that looked like a relationship. Certainly not one, again, that a normal person, and I say that, you know, loosely because what is normal, but no one who is normal would have tolerated that BS.
Right.
But my
Exactly.
trauma tolerated it because I equated a lot of things he said with what I was feeling instead of realizing he says a lot of things and backs up nothing. So I
Yeah.
realize now that I was leading with my trauma, and I could even say that he may have been leading with his trauma, but his trauma was manipulation and emotionally unavailable, and my trauma let me just basically tolerate whatever he dished out. Okay, so what does it look like after that?
So after I did my healing, and when I tell you I was closed away from the world, I was closed away from the world. Like I went to work, I went home, played video games, and that's kind of how I got through everything. But once I was good, I started dating again. But I started serial dating. I'm not kidding. I would, and let me
I've
let
been
me be
there.
let me be clear, okay? Okay, I wasn't taking these men home at night. I wasn't going to their home at night. Movies, dinners, drinks, dancings, serial dating. For a few months, like my best friend laughs at me all the time. She's like, I didn't even remember their names. I'm like, look, I can't even tell you their names now either because it was so many.
Right.
There were so many that I was just, I was having fun. I was single. I had the 9-year relationship. I had this guy that, what was I thinking? I'm good now. I'm living my best life. We just gonna have fun dating. And that's what I did for a while. And then there was this, a friend of mine, that I had met on like a social media app, and him and I were strictly friends until one day he did kind of like tell me that he was like more interested than just being friends. So him and I dated for a couple of months. We had a disagreement, and by this point I'm like, I ain't putting up with nothing.
Right. Right.
Like, first mistake, boom. So I went from, you can make a million mistakes and I'm gonna forgive you. You make one mistake and we're done.
Right. 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 Right.
And then shortly after him, that's when dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, and I was before you tell your dun dun dun, I was just telling my friend tonight. It was like, you know, I've had guys like date me and want and really not want to like go out and do anything, and then call me after and say, "So you want to go out to dinner?" And it's like, excuse me, if you didn't know what we were doing when we were together, what makes you think we're going to be doing anything? Dinner, movie, sitting on your couch, watching TV, doing whatever after we break up? No. The line has been drawn in the sand and we're not crossing it. I mean, if you didn't know what we were doing back then, we're not doing anything now.
Right.
I mean, so, okay. Dun dun dun.
Hmm. Yep. Dun dun dun. So, by this time, POF. Gotta love
Oh,
the dating,
God.
right? Gotta love the
Uh,
dating sites.
Mark,
Um,
we might have dated the same guy because, Lord, that's where I met the ex was on POF.
yep, that ex. So I met him in a public place. Actually, I think we were celebrating my birthday. So it was like in July of, I don't know when. I honestly, like, leading up to this interview, I've been trying to put dates together, and I don't even think I can, just because I try to block so much of it out, right? Um, but I think like 2015, because I moved away from Miami in 2017. So I think in 2015, in July 2015, I think I met him. And we like love bombing. Can you give me the definition of love bombing just so that I know exactly what it is? Because
Oh,
I
my.
never heard of it until I heard it from you.
So, love bombing is that initial stage where They are basically in an information gathering phase about you. They want to know everything about you. They want to know about your trauma. They want to know what makes you tick, because everything you tell them, they'll either mirror or put in the back of their mind. They also sometimes, love bombing can be initially hours and hours and hours of conversation, attention, and a lot of, if you're lucky enough to find a narcissist that actually has a damn job, which there are a few out there who don't, and that's their MO. But sometimes they will lavish you with gifts and things like that, and it's all a way to, it's almost like a way to buy you and hook you in early, because once they hook you, then they start the devaluation, the intermittent, poking the bear and then pulling the stick back and waiting for you to have a reaction so they can see it. And then once they see your reaction, then they poke again, and they keep pushing the boundary a little bit more, and they're watching for your reaction. And I will tell you that every time, the love bombing, it's like a grooming. So think about childhood SA victims. They're often groomed with candy and things that they like. And if you tell a love bomber, oh, sunflowers are my favorite thing, they'll give you sunflowers every day to make sure you know they haven't gone anywhere.
Got it.
But at the same time, later on, they'll buy you roses and you'll say, sunflowers are my favorite. Well, I don't know why it always has to be sunflowers. Why can't it be roses? I mean, why can't I? And you're like, okay. And so that's when they flip the table. So it goes both ways, but it is a grooming process.
Okay.
And the idea is to hook you in the sooner they can, as soon as they can.
So I would definitely say he loved bomb straight from the beginning. He was asking me about my history and my past, and of
Mhm.
course I shared it. I shared all of it. Now I'm a different lady now, so I definitely know not to give all that information right up back anymore if there ever is a new situation to happen.
Right, right.
But he did the love bombing. He pulled at my heartstrings.
Oh,
His
yeah.
dad had passed away a couple months before I met him. His mom had passed away years before that, so he was all alone. He didn't have
Lots of
family.
victim. Lots of playing victim. Hmm.
Exactly. And just kind of like going over the top to show me that he was into me and he wanted me and to pick him and not anybody else, and all of that stuff. So it moved really, really, really fast as well. And that was not really a norm for me because I have always, kind of tiptoed into it because I, once again, never wanted relationships,
Right.
never believed in relationships, so that one happened really, really fast.
And so after the love bombing, then did it fall into another phase, the devaluation, or
So he kind of became, I'm trying to like put the exact word on it because it wasn't necessarily controlling, but it was kind of like a little bit controlling, where he just kind of wanted our worlds to be wrapped around each other,
mm,
right? He wanted my world to be all about him, and he wanted his world to be all about me. He wanted to spend time with me 24/7. He didn't want me really spending time with friends. If we weren't together, texting, calling, and things like that. So, then, like, and then like the controllingness just kind of, I don't even know how to explain it sometimes because it just kind of, honestly, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like from one day to the next, it was just there. The aggression part of it, right? So it went kind of from controlling to aggression and not being appreciative of what I was doing for him.
mm,
So I vaguely remember, um, so that July we met, that December, which I should have had the red flags already and should have known better. That December was his birthday. So I'd planned out this insane thing where we went through all of South Florida to look at Christmas tree lights together because that was like a really big tradition for his family.
Mhm.
Well, I spent months planning this thing out for him, and he was just on his phone the whole time. So once everything was done at at this point in the relationship, I kind of already knew who he was before I even got home. I set up a text message to send to my friend who I was living with at the time as well. Because I knew once we got back to my house, when I told him to leave, he wouldn't want to leave. If I ever told him in the relationship, like, I want you out of my space, he would never give me my space. He planted himself there. And this guy was a big guy. He was like 6'4", 200 something pounds, you know, 5'3". Yeah, I'm a big girl and everything. But at the end of the day, I wasn't moving that brick wall. Right. So I had to set it up. I made, you can schedule a text message, right, to send in 5 minutes, 5 days or whatever. So I set up a text message to send to my friend. And I told him, I'm like, look, what you did was really disrespectful. I put so much time and effort into this. I don't appreciate it. I just want you to go home tonight. He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to listen to me. So I had to tell him, I'm like, look, I have a message set up. If you don't leave in 4 minutes, my friend's going to come and get you. She's going to tell you to leave her house. And from that, I should have known better. But
We
no.
live, we live and learn. We live and learn, but we're not to be blamed. It's such a hard
Yep.
road.
So, like we had our like ups and downs and stuff, but we still stuck out the relationship. Um, and stupid. I ended up moving in with him probably like in April of the following year.
You think that it would somehow make things better, or
Yeah. I was like,
yeah,
maybe if he's, because he had a lot of trust issues, right? Like, he didn't believe that I wasn't cheating on him. And okay, this is gonna sound conceited, right? But my boyfriends, they've always told me how pretty I am, and they always see how other men look at me or see how other women look at. Like, he would get jealous over women. If we were out somewhere and a woman looked at me, he'd be like, "Why is she looking at you like that? Like, what's wrong with her?" Right? So he was jealous over everybody. So it's like, I was like, okay, maybe if we live together, he won't feel the need to get jealous because he's gonna see what I'm doing all day, every day.
right,
He
right.
knows what I'm doing. But no, 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 no. It got worse. It got to the point where once we got into arguments, um, he wouldn't allow me to put on clothes to leave. I
Ooh.
had to always hide my keys so that if I did want to leave, I knew I could get my keys before he did. He broke a couple of my cell phones because I would, try to call someone and he didn't want me to call anybody. Um,
Escalated behavior for sure.
yeah. We would get in arguments so here's the thing, right? He never physically hit me. He's grabbed me, he's pushed me, but actually like hitting me, he's never done that. Um, but I think the one wake up call was where we got into an argument about something, probably something stupid, right? And he pushed me up against the wall and he punched the wall and it was that far from my face.
That's
Um,
that's those moments of intimidation and fear that rest in your brain, like, what will he really do if I really do this? And what is he truly capable of?
exactly.
And I'm like Patricia, grabbing, pushing you up against the wall, those are all elements of physical abuse, but we don't want to call it as such because that's like an extreme label for what we don't want to see and believe, but
Right.
it is physical violence.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So yeah, and then at that point in the relationship, I was kind of like transitioning from a job and like going to nail school. So then he started coming with the allegations of I was cheating with him. I was cheating on him with some guy from nail school. Come to find out, he was cheating on me.
Oh, classic projection.
Exactly. Mind you, like, I would totally tell you right now if I cheated on him. Never cheated on him a
Right.
day. Never, ever, ever. Um, so, and at this point, we're like a year in, right? Because I moved in April, May. We're probably now in July. So that's like a year in. Um, so, he's accusing me and I'm telling him I'm not cheating on him. And it just kind of, like at that point, I was like, you know what, just kind of suck it up, finish nail school, you have your job. You're not really with him that much anymore, anyways, because I would get off of work, go straight to school, spend most of the weekend in school too. So I was just like, suck it up. When all of this is done, you can just leave, you can just leave, you can just leave. Um, but it just got to the point where here we go. Hurricane came through South Florida. 2017. I don't remember the name of the hurricane. We drove up north to go stay with my family to get away from the hurricane. Um, when we came back, his area where we were living in, they didn't have electricity. So we ended up staying with my best friend until electricity came back. So while we were going back and forth from her house to his house to make sure that, our stuff was okay at his house and do any cleaning because he had pets and everything, we had gone there one day and the house is closed up, shutters, no air conditioner, no nothing. He has like 4 or 5 cats. I'm allergic to cats. So I tell him, look, I can't be inside while you're cleaning. I'm sorry, like I can't help you clean because I can't breathe. So he got mad at me, and I was like, "Look, I'm gonna put my stuff in the car, and I'll just wait for you out there." And I had my suitcase in my hand, and he took the suitcase and he snatched it out of my hand, and he ended up breaking some of my nails. So like I was, bleeding from my nails. He threw it at my car. When I was trying to get into the car, he took my car and he took the door and he moved, like he opened it all the way, like he broke my door in a sense, right? Swinging it the opposite direction. Um, so finally, all of this is going on. Nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. Never thought I would be in a situation. Never wanted a relationship. I know what this is. I saw my stepdad, try to run my mom over in her car. I know what this is. I don't want to be here. I don't know how I got here. I'm smarter than this, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. So finally, on our way back, because we were driving 2 cars, I called my best friend and I told her everything that was happening. And she's like, "You got to get out of here."
Yeah.
She's like, "You got to get out." I was like, "I know." It's like, what am I going to
Yeah. What do you do? Yeah.
do? What are you going to do? So her and I made a plan. We were going to wait for him to go to work. I had the keys to the house. Wait for him to go to work. Um, pack all of my stuff and just leave. And it wasn't just leave his house. We knew that wasn't going to work because we knew he would know where I was. So in those processes of doing that, I had to stay at other friends' house that he didn't know where they lived so that he wouldn't find me.
And this is the most dangerous time
Yeah.
for those listening and watching. Um, when you decide to leave a domestic abuse situation, that is the most dangerous time for the individual who's leaving. That's why making a plan and telling no one, except for the people who need to be involved, is most important.
Um, I had my family also coming down to help me pack the U-Haul. So I didn't stay at my friends. And then, of course, the situation came where he pretty much knows everybody that I would go to in Miami. He knows where my family lives. So I have to go somewhere where he doesn't know. So my two options were literally to leave the state, to go back home to Louisiana, or to move up to Orlando where I had friends at and he didn't know anything about. So I literally had to move 4 hours away from this man to make sure me and him were safe. Because at this point is when my rage started kicking in. When I went to get all of my things, he had already had another woman moving in with him. So he had actually ended up cheating on me probably twice that I know of. And I wasn't even moved out, and he had another woman moved in already. And I could have gone in there and I could have torn things up, right? But no, no, leave with dignity, right? I just took my stuff and I left.
Well, and as someone is saying on the Real Change page, she says, "Girl, it is nothing about being smart. Being abused and intelligent are not the same. You showed you are smart by making that phone call and so brave to leave." That is
Thank
what
you.
someone said. Someone else said, "Slamming and punching holes in walls is for intimidation. It gets you to shut up." Um, Someone else says, "Sounds typical. Blame the other person for the things they are doing. Gotta love projection." Um, yeah, those are those times when you look back more and you realize that it really could have been him or you. Like
It could have.
he could have unalived you. You could have hurt him, and you'd be in jail. I mean, and you are not the first woman that
Mhm.
would be the case, because
Exactly.
sadly it happens more often than we know or want to talk about.
So what happened was, through like the breakup process, right? He wouldn't allow me to go to his house to get my stuff because he didn't want me to know that he had another woman there. But yet he was texting me, "I love you, I want you back, this can't happen," all of this stuff. And then he was texting my friends and telling people that I was stalking him and that I was threatening him and I was breaking into his house. I mean, like, he drug my name through the mud. So really, at the end of it, I wanted to get a match as I was taking my stuff out. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was so hard for me to not retaliate in some type of way, not because of the abuse, but because of what he made my character look like after.
And people, and the thing is, people you're really close to, you know, like we've said before in the past, 16 nights, you've told everyone how great everything is, and now you have to go back and say the guy's an idiot, an asshole, a jerk, or whatever, and you don't want, and that controls you, even though you know that it's not what your friends should say or do. That's what they do, and so you find yourself just shrinking into solitude and isolation, because it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to tell anybody, I don't want anybody to know, and of course the victim blaming and shaming of yourself. I mean, that's all control. It's all control, and it can be done. It's sometimes very subtle. It's very subtle,
Yes.
and after a while, after you've been groomed, then you start to groom yourself, which is a horrible place to find yourself in, and that's when you're, ignoring the red flags or painting them pink or just completely ignoring them and making them white. And you're just like, oh no, it's just a bad day and all these things. And you start to, lose yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
and you also find out that as you're losing yourself, you then find out in some ways maybe you never knew yourself. Because
Yeah.
again, you're leading with the trauma into the relationship rather than, and that's where the self love and the self care comes in.
Yeah.
So
So,
after you move away, does he
funny
leave?
enough, this also hit me the other day too, because like I said, I didn't like remembering dates was always hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I left October 29th to move to Orlando. So
Coming
kind of
up.
coming full circle now, I guess. It feels like because this is really the first time I openly talk about this too. Other than like my family and my close friend, nobody really knows about this story.
Well, and you find out that your story is not unfamiliar.
Right.
And you also find out that the more times you hear your own story come out of your own mouth, you start to realize, wow, this was really crazy.
It
Bullshit.
was a crazy
Toxic.
ride.
Yeah.
Um and I mean, so like I've talked to him. Not anytime recently, but he reaches out to my friends on Facebook every
Mm,
once in a while to try to get in touch with me.
right.
So one time, finally, I responded back to him, and I'm like, you got to stop this. And of course, he goes right back into, I was so stupid. I should have never done this. Mind you, he's also telling me he's married,
Right.
right? So, and
Like, don't tell your wife.
well, I also had to keep tabs on him, right? Because I also left friends there that he could go to their house at any point if he was having an unstable moment and terrorize them too, right? So I kept tabs on him. After me, he went from relationship to relationship to relationship. The two after him, he had domestic violence charges pushed against him. The two after. Come to find out, the one before me, there was also domestic violence charges against him. Um, so the girlfriend that he cheated on me with and moved in, she actually ended up using a knife on him.
So, Mar, you not only dodged a bullet, but God took the trash out.
Girl, yeah,
Because, I mean, because listen, the ex in my case, same thing. I mean, there were so many before me, there were so many during me, and Lord knows there has been a trail after me.
yep.
Um, but for some reason, I must have been prime A grade A rib filet mignon something, because I tell you what, for 5 years, and if you're listening out there, just the legal abuse and all of the craziness after. I mean, listen, if I didn't know you were crazy while I was with you because I painted your red flags pink and white, I certainly knew how crazy you were after I left your
Hmm.
ass.
And that's when they start becoming more crazy and more
Right,
violent. The
right.
moment you tell them I want to leave,
The control. Oh, they can't
exactly.
give it up.
So if you're in that situation where you even have a small sliver of a red flag that this could be your situation, do not tell him you're leaving.
Right,
Do not tell him,
right.
because you instantly put yourself in danger
That is the most
in
dangerous
one
time.
way or another.
So did he? I guess after you broke up, after you moved, so there was not only a little bit of stalking you, but stalking through others. That's abuse
Yeah,
by proxy. Abuse
yeah.
by proxy. That's what that's called. Um,
He's still done it. In the past 2 years, I know of a couple of people he still messages every once in a while
mm,
to try to reach out to me. When I go back to Miami, like I didn't go back to Miami for like 2 years, I think. But still to this day, right? It ended in 2017. We're in 2023, almost the end of 2023. Still to this day, if I'm at my best friend's house and there's a sudden knock on the door and I don't know who's coming over, I get startled.
right.
If somebody tells me, oh, like my best friend's sister went over one day and there was a stuffed animal by my car, and she comes in and she's like, oh, there's an animal, there's a stuffed animal by your car, and like the color just dropped out of my body,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I'm not scared of him. Let me make that perfectly clear. I am not scared of him. Okay, because now I know better, right? I'm not scared of him. What I'm scared of is causing an altercation. What I'm scared of is me hurting him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I've grown, I know, and I'm going to stand up for myself.
And the triggers the triggers come from an emotional place.
Yes.
So by this time, what you have learned logically is not always how the body responds emotionally, because that trauma bond of addiction, when the body goes up, it knows it's coming down, and when it's down, it knows it's going up. And so the body is reacting in a way that it knows how to do from just muscle memory, basically. And sadly, you know, what abusers love to do is when they can't get to you physically, They want to try to get at you or to you emotionally because they know that's where they existed 24/7 anyway, was right here. The control came from right here in your mind, because you could have left at any time as long as you make a plan. Someone is saying over here, mind games. He just wants
Yes.
to figure out what kind of hold he may still have on you. That's why they reach out. That's called hoovering, like
Hmm.
a vacuum. They want to hoover you back. They want to try to suck you back in. They want to see how far they can push you, to see how much they can bring you back in. And usually the abuse is worse when they can get that reeling you back in moment. Someone else says, um, triggers happen whether you are scared or not. That's just from the trauma. It's
Yeah.
very natural. Do not tell anyone you are leaving. They may tell. It's dangerous. Um, Someone else says control over you and over other people's opinions of you. That was one thing that I had to really learn is, you know what, buddy? You go say whatever it is you think you need to say. You go do whatever it is you need to do because I am not going to waste my time defending myself against your bullshit.
Yeah.
That's another hard, that's a hard lesson to learn is not to defend yourself because you got to know who you are, where you've been, and where you're going. Those questions did not come by accident. You
Hmm.
got to know who you are, where you've been, and where you're going so that you can own your trauma, own your healing, and move forward. Because otherwise, they'll not only steal who you are, they will steal who you could be
That's
because they will rest in your mind much longer than they deserve. Because Lord knows they ain't paying rent usually. They ain't paying rent. Someone says you are a beautiful and vibrant woman. Your
Thank you.
smile is one that I hope is never dimmed by another person.
Never, ever, ever, ever.
And then she says, both of you. Wow, thank you. Um, I want to give you a moment, collect your thoughts. Okay. I'm going to say, shameless plug. Thank you very much for being here. Love over coffee, voices not heard or voices now heard. This is a platform and podcast for the marginalized, the silenced, and the abused. I am the host, but I bring to you the stories of individuals whose lived experiences may be very different from your own, or in some cases, may be quite similar. And I want to say that from this podcast has grown a subscription box that is called Love Over Coffee Reclaiming Self. And it has activities, knowledge, information, rituals, practices, to encourage, promote, and teach you about self love, self care, and healing trauma. So, I just started my TikTok shop. It's possible that my subscription box may end up in the TikTok shop, but I'm still figuring that out. So don't get excited yet. But um, I want to just say, um, Mar, do you have any closing thoughts, final words, before we say goodnight?
I do. The moment you feel in your gut, and you women, we have that. We have that intuition. Okay. The moment you feel in your gut that something's not right, the moment you feel that you're not safe, that you have to walk on eggshells, just because you sit there in your mind and you say, this is never going to happen to me. I didn't want this to happen to me. I never expected this to happen to me. Get yourself out. Don't be ashamed. Don't hide it. Your loved ones, they may give you a hard time. They may talk crap, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that you're safe. Maybe your children are safe. Um and just listen to yourself and love yourself more than anything else.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell, right there. Forget the eggshells. Go with the nutshell, and that is love yourself, through self care and those practices and put yourself first. And only then can you truly love another and pour from a full cup. And so I want to say thank you to everyone on the Love Over Coffee page, which used to be the Tina M. Durbin page, but now I'm Love Over Coffee on TikTok. But I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the love, the like, the share. I want to say thank you to Mar. She is one of our community and she is a bright star. And again, she takes all my money. But we won't talk about that. Um, yeah, I catch her on live about 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, Mara, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Um, we will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Tomorrow night, my guest is Aunt Pat, Patricia Jones. You've seen her in the comments, probably on Facebook and on TikTok. And whew, she was in a 47-year marriage to a narcissist. We cannot compare trauma.
Can't even imagine.
We cannot compare the time frame and the impact it can still have on an individual. But I think to myself, 47 years. I cannot even
I
fathom.
can't fathom.
Um,
Cannot. I was lucky.
We'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do not have a guest right now on the 19th, so it will probably be a rebroadcast unless I can, um, uh, find someone. But I do have some guests coming up. Basically, the rest of the month, I have like 3 dates left. So if you're out there and you want to tell your story, please hit me up in Messenger. Thank you all for being here. Um, Thank you, Janet, for saying all nice things. Thank you to everyone for hanging out. Um, I really appreciate your presence and peace, love, and light. Go in self love and self care. And, in my honor, at least drink 1 cup of coffee a day. I mean, really, I'm not asking much. Mars going to drink coffee. Yeah,
Enjoy the
oh,
journey.
enjoy the journey. I love it. I know. I'm drinking a Burger King Coke right now, but
And it'll get better. The journey gets better.
it does get better. It does get better. So, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and end the TikTok live now. So, thank you, everyone. Do you have anything you want to say specifically, Mar, to the TikTok community that knows you so well and loves you more?
I love my community there. I have a oh man, you guys are so special, honestly. I'm so grateful that I get to spend time every day with people who allow me to be me. Because let
I
me tell you,
agree.
I'm a handful.
I agree.
They allow me to be me without judgment, and they support me. So I'm so grateful that I have this platform that it's just brought together so many special people.
Right. Um, yes, thank you so much for the loves and the likes and the shares, and for being out there. Thank you for coming in and supporting one of our own community members. It's important, and I'm humbled and honored to have been someone that Mar felt safe enough to share her story with, so publicly, maybe for the first time in many ways. So I really, like I said, I'm very humbled by that. I'm going to go ahead and end the TikTok live. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Thank you to everyone over here on the Real Change page and the Real Change and 1111 group, and also on the YouTube page. I will tell you, if you've liked me in one place, go like in another so that the algorithm can be generated and basically get the message out more. So thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Shirley. Have a great night. Take care, everybody. I'm going to end the live stream.